Clinton.Bennett is a British-American scholar of religions and participant in interfaith dialogue specializing in the study of Islam and Muslim non-Muslim encounter.An ordained Baptist minister. He was a missionary in Bangladesh before serving as the second director of interfaith relations at the British Council of Churches in succession to Kenneth Cracknell.Bennett has also taken part in the dialogue activities of the World Council of Churches. A graduate of Manchester, Birmingham and Oxford Universities, he has held several academic appointments in the UK and in the United States, where he now lives. He currently writes for various publications and teaches part-time at the State University of New York at New Paltz and at Marist College. He is a Fellow of the Royal Asiatic Society, of the Royal Anthropological Institute and of the Committee for the Scientific Examination of Religion. He has authored books, chapters in books, journal articles and encyclopedia entries. He can be considered to have made a significant contribution toward developing a Christian appreciation of Islam and of Muhammad. Ahmad Shafat writes, Bennett's approach allows him to treat Islamic traditions and the Muslim interpretations with sensitivity and respect, not often found among Christian writings on Islam. Bennett became a U.S. citizen during 2012. Biography. Background. Bennett was born in Tettenhall, then an urban district in Staffordshire, England. In 1966, he migrated to Australia with his parents, Howard Bennett and Joan Bennett, and his two siblings. He completed his final year of primary education in Australia, then attended Maclean High School, Maclean, New South Wales. He was a member of the school debating team taking part in inter-school competitions, a member of the radio club, student leader of the Interschool Christian Fellowship chapter, and represented his class for a year on the Student Representative Council. He won prizes for acting and for history. After gaining his school's certificate, he worked in Sydney as an officer in the State Civil Service 1972–1973. Originally an Anglican, Bennett was baptized into membership of the Lower Clarence Baptist Church in 1969. He was active in the Christian Endeavour movement and as a youth camp leader. Education. Bennett returned to England to train for ordination at Northern Baptist College, Manchester, while also taking a BA in theology at the University of Manchester, where he developed his interest in world religions. His initial focus was on the religions of India. To matriculate, Bennett spent his first year obtaining a certificate in biblical knowledge from the university and 2 A-levels from the Joint Matriculation Board. At university, Bennett was politically active through the Liberal Society. He was treasurer of the Baptist United Reformed Church Society, served on the chaplaincy committee and as secretary of the Theological Society. In this capacity, he invited such theologians as Maurice Wiles, I. Howard Marshall, Morna Hooker and others to address the society, whose members included faculty alongside students. For the last 6 months of his final year, he was Baptist student leader at the college. He graduated in July 1978 and was ordained as a minister of the Baptist Union of Great Britain the same month. Accepted for service with the Baptist Missionary Society, Bennett spent an academic year at the Selly Oak Colleges, Birmingham, where he undertook missionary orientation. He was most influenced by Leslie Newbigin, who taught missiology. In July 1979, Bennett obtained a certificate in the study of Islam from the University of Birmingham through the Center for the Study of Islam and Christian-Muslim Relations before proceeding to Bangladesh, where he remained until 1982, engaged in pastoral care and distance education, teaching as a tutor for the College of Christian Theology, Bangladesh. He passed the junior and senior level Bengali examinations of the Bangladesh Language Examination Board. although he completed several units of a master's degree by distance learning from Fuller Theological Seminary, Pasadena, CA. He was unable to complete the residential component because of the cost. When the BMS chose not to support his plan to enroll for an MA at a college in Bangladesh, he returned to Birmingham, graduating MA in 1985 and PhD in 1990. Both research degrees were in Islamic studies under the supervision of David Kerr and Christian W. Troll, S.J. His external examiners were Jan Slomp and Clifford Edmund Bosworth. Bennett's doctoral thesis was subsequently published as Victorian Images of Islam. In 1985, Bennett also passed the Bengali O-level, achieving an A grade. In 1996, Bennett graduated from the University of Oxford with the Med through Westminster College, Oxford, where he was teaching at the time. In 1994 he had completed the Certificate of Professional Studies in Education from the university's Delegacy of Local Examinations, also through Westminster. Career. While researching at Birmingham University for his doctorate, Bennett was employed by the Birmingham Ethnic Education and Advisory Service Trust as a community tutor and development worker. During 1986-7 he was Free Church chaplain at Aston University. From 1985 until 1992, he was associate pastor at Highgate Baptist Church, Birmingham. In September 1987, he succeeded Kenneth Cracknell as Director of Interreligious Relations at what was then the British Council of Churches, where he remained until 1992. Bishop Jim Thompson, as moderator of Bennett's committee, led his service of induction into office. During his tenure, Bennett encouraged member churches to adopt the 4 principles of dialogue, traveled widely speaking and lecturing to promote these principles, but he often found himself especially concerned with Christian-Muslim relations. He issued joint press statements with Zaki Badawi, chair of the Imams and Mosques Council, in response to the Salman Rushdie affair and to the First Gulf War. In 1992, having helped to establish the Church's Commission for Interfaith Relations within the new ecumenical structures for Britain and Ireland, he left the council to take up appointment as lecturer in religious studies at Westminster College, Oxford. From 1996 he was senior lecturer. Bennett lived on campus as a resident tutor and assistant chaplain. In his teaching at Westminster, Bennett was asked to focus on anthropology alongside colleagues whose specialisms were psychology, sociology and phenomenology of religion. He was leader of the Religions in Contemporary Society cluster for the BTH final year and RS subject leader for Part 1 of the BED program. While at Westminster, Bennett also taught part-time on a Master's in Spirituality at what is now the University of Winchester. In 1998, he moved to Baylor University, Waco, Texas, with the rank of Associate Professor of Religion. He was cross-listed as Asia Studies faculty and also taught on the Baylor Interdisciplinary Core. He was a full member of graduate faculty. After leaving Baylor in 2001, Bennett has tutored part-time for the Center for the Study of Jewish-Christian Relations, Cambridge. He has also taught for Cambridge University's Institute of Continuing Education. 2006-2007 he was on the full-time faculty of the Unification Theological Seminary, Barrytown, NY, where he was Associate Professor of Ministry and Living Traditions and Director of Field Education. He was part-time at UTS during 2005. Bennett has also had honorary status as a visiting research fellow at Birmingham University. Since 2005 he has written and edited for the online New World Encyclopedia and 4 other publications. Since fall 2008 he has taught religious studies part-time at the State University of New York at New Paltz. Teaching Bennett has taught undergraduate level courses on BED, BA and BT Ph. degrees in Hinduism, Sikhism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, methodology, ethics, Islamic theology and philosophy, Islamic art and architecture, religious exclusivism and the issue of uniqueness, area studies and world cultures. At graduate level, he has taught MTH, MAMDIV, MRE, and PhD courses in religious pluralism, spirituality, ministry, Islam, religions of India, China and Japan, pastoral theology, pastoral care and counseling, paths of faith, Islam, Christian-Muslim relations, the theory and practice of ecumenism, the United Nations and global peace and church growth. He has successfully supervised MTH, MA and Med dissertations in a range of subject areas. At Westminster, he was a member of the BED and MTH examination boards and external examiner in religious studies for New College, Southampton. He also served as external examiner for a University of Leeds M.Phil. At Baylor, he participated in the oral examination of PhD and MA students. He has both supervised and examined MA theses for the Center for the Study of Jewish-Christian Relations, Cambridge. Bennett uses literature, especially post-colonial literature and film, to help explore religious themes in his teaching. Involvement in the World Council of Churches. Bennett was a consultant at the bar meeting of the WCC's Dialogue subunit and a member of the subunit's working party that drafted issues in Christian-Muslim relations, ecumenical considerations. 1992 until 1998 he was a member of the World Council of Churches consultation on the Church and the Jewish people representing the Baptist Union of Great Britain, attending meetings in Geneva and Budapest. Voluntary service. Bennett served as member, vice-chair and chair of Chandos Primary School governing body and as a governor of Yew Tree Community School. Both schools are in Birmingham, UK. He was a member of Birmingham Community Relations Council and chair of the Birmingham Affairs Committee of Birmingham Churches Together, also serving on the Executive and Free Church Committees. Also in Birmingham, he was secretary of what is now called the Birmingham Council of Faiths, secretary of Small Heath Advice Centre, chair of Old No Bengali Association and a member of the Highgate Advice Centre Management Committee. In these capacities, he engaged in advocacy, fundraising, recruited staff and liaised with the Charity Commission, City Council and government departments. He organized play schemes, supplementary schools and excursions. Bennett assisted several Birmingham mosques with obtaining charitable status and funds for community activities. He did so while serving as a Birmingham delegate on the General Committee of the West Midland Baptist Association, the regional body of his own denomination. At national level during his period with the British Council of Churches, he served on the executive committees of the Interfaith Network for the UK, the Council of Christians and Jews and the World Congress of Faiths. He was also a member of the Religious Studies Committee of what was previously called the School Curriculum and Assessment Authority of the UK, Department of Education. For several years an associate member of the Iona community, Bennett has also visited the Taizé community. He has led student groups at both communities over Easter. In 2005 he attended the Centenary Congress of the Baptist World Alliance. He is a member of the International Advisory Board of FOREF Europe. Between 1979 and 2011 he was an accredited minister of the Baptist Union of Great Britain. His ordination is currently recognized by the Alliance of Baptists. He represents the Alliance on the convening table for interreligious relations and collaboration on topics of mutual concern of the National Council of the Churches of Christ in the USA. He is a past president of the Lifetime Learning Institute Institute of Sunni New Palts, having served as president 2014 to 2015. Links with Indian subcontinent and with the Muslim world. Bennett has maintained close ties with India and Bangladesh. He has visited and toured India several times, as well as teaching at summer schools for the Henry Martyn Institute, Hyderabad, and on Westminster College's former M.Th. extension program in India. In 1996 and 1997 he did field work in Bangladesh interviewing for his book on Muhammad. He has traveled to a number of other Muslim countries including Egypt, Turkey, Indonesia, Malaysia and Morocco, and has explored the Moorish architectural legacy in Spain. Consultancy. Bennett has advised Continuum, Routledge, Oxford University Press and Ashgate on the publication of MSS. Between 1987 and 1992, he was an advisor to the Roman Catholic National Council for Lay Associations, also advising at meetings of the European Forum of National Laity Committees in Vienna and Antwerp. 2005 to 2007 he was a member of the Global Council of the Universal Peace Federation. During 2006 Bennett led seminars and workshops on Bangladeshi culture for Hudson School District, Hudson, NY. During 2007 he was an accredited representative of the UPF at the United Nations in NY. Publications and scholarly work. Bennett says that his published work reflects interest in a number of theoretical issues in religious studies as well as in teaching and learning. These include the insider-outsider problematic, the relationship between theology, religious studies and the study of culture, the issue of objectivity, how colonial and neo-colonial attitudes influence the study of religions, and postmodern approaches to textual interpretation. He acknowledges the influence of Edward Said, Clifford Geertz and Wilfred Cantwell Smith, as well as Bishop Kenneth Cracknell, among others. According to Ahmad Shafat, Bennett repeatedly shows concerns about how conclusions are influenced by our assumptions and backgrounds and gives some thought to the ways of avoiding this influence. Bennett defines his approach in terms of Edward Said's criticism of Orientalism and Cantwell Smith's way of avoiding that type of criticism, so that even when he describes at length some very hostile views of Christian writers on Islam and its prophet, he either counters them by Muslim understanding or his own more favorable opinion. Victorian images of Islam. Bennett's Victorian images of Islam has been widely cited, for example, by Kate Zebiri, Roland R. Hugh Goddard and Dana L. Robert. Armour refers to the work of Bennett and of such scholars as Bernard Lewis and John Esposito as lying behind almost every page that follows. David Thomas described the book as an illuminating study into an overlooked corner of Victorian religious history. In particular, it showed that more diversity of approach existed among earlier contributors, but that more often than not it is a priori premises rather than encounter that determine attitude. Bennett described contributors as confrontational or conciliatory, analyzing the work of three scholars in each category. The three conciliators were Charles Forster, Frederick Dennis and Morris and Reginald Bosworth Smith, and the three confrontationalists were William Muir, William Street, Claire Tisdall and John Trubate. Conciliators were those Western writers who questioned the prevailing attitude of cultural and religious superiority that led to a belittling of everything non-European. Confrontationalists perpetuated traditional anti-Muslim polemic. Bennett later commented that while actual meetings between Christians and Muslims may result in a change of heart and mind, more often than not, it confirms our prejudices, which it has to be said is one of the biggest problems involved in Christian-Muslim encounter. Quote, He stresses, though, that the story of Christian-Muslim encounter includes examples of harmonious coexistence as well as of hostility. By remembering these experiences, we can ensure that future relations are not solely defined by a negative historical memory. Ahmad Ghani called the book a valuable contribution to the debate on the important question of Islam and the West, and said that the Baptist minister had to a certain extent complemented the work of three Muslim writers, Anis, Saeed Z. Abedan and Z. Sadar, whose book had been published by the same publisher as Bennett's. Like Thomas, Ghani remarked that Bennett's research showed that even when people are technically well equipped and spend extensive periods of residence in the countries of the world of Islam, this does not necessarily lead to objective judgments, especially if one starts off, as in the case of the three confrontational writers, with a priori assumptions about Islam. Andros, a Shia Muslim, suggested that the book study by Muslim imams in training might go some way towards breaking down barriers and misconceptions, and observed that, through his own enlightened position, Bennett has done a lot to undermine at least one Muslim's preconceptions about Christian missionaries, and about Baptist missionaries in particular. Bennett's In Search of books in 1996. Bennett read the first of 4 books with In Search of in the title, In Search of the Sacred, Anthropology and the Study of Religion, in which he called for a combination of historical, textual and participant observation research to shed light on how religion is lived as well as on its history and official dogmas. He argued that no researcher is neutral and that we all need to engage in reflexivity to guard against bias and the imposition of a priori presuppositions, so that, as a reviewer commented, suddenly the act of observation becomes the subject of observation, and, for a teacher like Bennett, his own experience as an ordained minister and missionary, his own experience with the give and take of ecumenical teaching becomes the data of religious thought. Bennett, Denning continued, is not independent of all the observations made through centuries of thought, so there is convergence. Library and field, intellect and emotion, thought and experience in the end come together. The book, said this reviewer, helped to make the exposition of more than 100 years of thought on the study of religions lucid and memorable. Alan Race, in another review, described the book as cutting through a dense thicket, yielding a clear, highly readable survey of how anthropology and religious studies have interacted and failed to interact. Although remarking that it mainly discussed European history, Bennett followed this in 1998 with In Search of Muhammad and in 2001 with In Search of Jesus, Insider and Outsider Images. A. G. Noorani describes In Search of Muhammad as an earnest effort by a devout Christian to understand Muhammad, and places Bennett in the ranks of others whose services Minnow Reeves acknowledges in her survey of Western writing on Muhammad. Commenting on Bennett's discussion of the sources available for the life of Muhammad, Hugh Goddard says that while he is not as negative as some modern Western scholars, neither is he uncritical of them, suggesting that some traditions, particularly concerning Muhammad's miracles and the role of women, should be judged as unreliable, referring to Bennett's attempt to suggest how Christ and Muhammad might be viewed as somehow complementary, rather than as rivals. He called this a brave attempt, even though there are no easy answers to such a significant question. Citations include Gerard Rickon, who says that he makes words of Bennett's his own when he wrote his searching book on Muhammad and aimed to hear Muslim voices. Timothy Johnson, ABC News chief medical correspondent, who is also an ordained minister of the Evangelical Covenant Church, refers to Bennett as a fine scholar and student of world religions, and recommends In Search of Jesus as an amazing companion compendium of the many attempts to capture the story of Jesus by both insiders and outsiders. Quote, "You can," he continues, "look up almost any writer on the subject of Jesus and find a brief but fair summary of the person's writing and point of view. It is a great one-stop source of quick summary information." The fourth, In Search of book, In Search of Solutions, The Problem of Religion and Conflict, appeared in 2008 as part of a series edited by Rosemary Radford Ruther and Lisa Isherwood. Other books include Muslims and Modernity and Understanding Christian-Muslim Relations. Research for Muslims and Modernity was supported with a grant from the Spalding Trust. Bennett has also co-written Researching Teaching Methods in College and Universities, explaining that this drew on his use of small-scale, qualitative research undertaken because he wanted more exposure to social research methodology. Chapters in edited volumes include 4 contributions to the 1994 Pinter series Themes in Religious Studies, which have been used by the Open University, and to Jesus and the Cross, Reflections of Christians from Islamic Contexts, edited by David Emmanuel Singh. Various articles reflect his interest in ultra-T, citizenship, identity and belonging in multicultural contexts and in the clash of civilizations thesis and its criticism. He edited the journal Discernment from 1990 until 1998 and guest-edited an edition of World Faith's Inside marking Marcus Bray Brooks' retirement as editor, and Volume 24 No. 2 of Westminster Studies in Education commemorating the 150th anniversary of Westminster College's foundation. He is editor of a series on studying religion for Continuum International. Contributors include David Nanda Hart and William Brackney. Missionary concern. His missionary background is reflected in contributions to such publications as the International Bulletin of Missionary Research, including 3 articles in the Mission Legacies series, the Biographical Dictionary of Christian Missions, and by reviews in the journal Missiology, an international review.